Hi, I'm Susan Lenart Kazmer. I am a jewelry artist and a silversmith. I studied at the Art Institute of Chicago many years ago. I now am considered a master in cold joints. Most of my work is in connecting mixed media and metals together. I recently am an author of a book called Making Connections, a handbook for jewelers and mixed media artists. Jeweler's saw is a tool that's very important for metal workers, and it's a tool that I find many people struggle with. It's the only way that you would be able to cut on the inside of a sheet of metal. So that's done a lot. It can make your work more intricate. In doing it properly, you have less cleanup. I'm going to show first off on how to load the jeweler's saw. This is an 8-inch throat on my jeweler's saw. There's 3 different sizes. I like using this size just to make sure that I can, in case I do a larger sheet of metal, I can get all the way inside of it and make my turns appropriately. So to start with, these are the blades that fit into the jeweler's saw. They come in a bundle of a dozen. And when you pull it out, you just kind of want to unravel the thin wire that's on the outside, and it should loosen things up, so you should be able to pull your blades right out of here. My blade, I want it to be nice and smooth when I brush my hand downward, and very jagged, almost as like petting your cat, where if you pushed backwards it would be really jagged. So I'm going to face this upward toward me, and I'm going to open up my first screw, and right in between I'm going to insert the blade and tighten it in. Now what I want to do is I want to buckle this piece towards the bottom. I want to buckle this as close as I can to make my saw blade be nice and tight and secure. So I'm going to lean into my piece while pulling it towards me at the same time. And then I'm going to close this up, and you should be able to hear a beautiful sound of music if you're doing it right. The blades come in oiled, so my blade actually is ready to go right now. After I've been sawing for a while, you're going to see I use a little beeswax on it, or Burr Life, or some type of oil to keep it lubricated. This is actually an architectural measuring device, but I can lay it right onto my metal, and with using an awl, I can scratch the image that I want to cut out. I can scratch this right into my metal by just going around a couple times. This actually is a pretty good system because this can be sanded out later, but if I do hit right on the line, it's not even going to be necessary to sand it. If I find I scratch this on here with a marker or with a pen, by the time I finish getting this cut out, the image will be erased. So once I have my image marked on here, now I'm going to move over to cutting my piece out. So here I'm going to come in from the side. I want to lay my nail right on the side of where I want to bring my saw blade into, and I'm just going to start very slowly going up and down until I catch. Okay, good. One of the most important things that I found in working with tools and working with metal is to let your tool do the work. And I can't emphasize this enough. If you think about metal as being one of the strongest elements that we have here on Earth, you're really going to need a strong tool rather than stronger muscles. There's 4 reasons that the saw blade would break. There's many people who will go through saw blades, and that would be is if you're trying to push too fast into your metal. You're actually trying to get farther ahead, like when you're cutting with scissors and paper, and that actually would end up snapping your saw blade. Another reason why your saw blade would break, as I mentioned, is if this isn't tight enough. If it is tight enough, you're not going to break a blade. When I come into my studio and get ready to saw, another very important element is to be relaxed and let my tools do the work. This hand will be very relaxed and very loose. Actually, my left hand will be working much harder by holding my piece down than my right hand. My right hand is just simply going up and down. There's one other reason that the blade would not be that the blade might possibly break. This is actually a size 1 blade that's in here, and you always want your blade to fit, your sheet metal to fit right in between the 2 teeth. This is a size 1, it matches up with a 20 gauge or an 18 gauge sheet metal. If I have too large of a gauge or too small of a gauge, too small of a gauge works better, but if it's too large of a gauge, I might end up breaking my saw blade. The smaller the size of your blade, the less filing you'll have to do later down the line. This sound is very, very important. You always know if you're using your jeweler saw appropriately is by the sound. It should sound beautiful, not scratching, not catching. You always want to release your blade when you're not using it so you can reuse it again and it won't break on you. So I'm going to show cutting out. The first thing that I need to do is to drill my hole since I'm not coming in from the outside. So I'm just going to take my center punch and a hammer and just very gently hit to make a mark. And anytime I'm hammering, I'm using the anvil. Anytime I'm drilling, I'm using a block of wood. So I'm going to put this down on my block of wood, and I'm going to lay my drill bit on here. And again, just let my tool do the work for me to drill a hole straight through my metal. Okay, once I have my hole, now I have the end of my saw blade open, so I'm just going to thread it right through the hole, and I'll be able to begin cutting out from this point. So again, I'm going to buckle my saw blade, make sure it's tight, and I'm on the inside of my piece. This blade I've used for a while, so there is a little lubricant, and now I'm just going to cut out the inside. Thank you. Thanks for watching this clip today.